So just quickly, let's go and configure a PACL and the VACL. So VACL configuration steps, ACL configuration steps, you just go and configure the IP access list and you apply it in the inbound or outbound direction to enforce policy. So quickly, let's go ahead and do that. You go on the diagram in here. And like we did before, let's go on router 3 in here and put an inbound ACL. And we're going to deny traffic from router 2 loopback 0 to router 1 loopback 0 and allow everything else. So I just want to deny traffic between the loopback 0 of router 2 and router 1, but it's going to be because the ACL is applied inbound on router 3, the filtering is going to be effective only in this direction from 2 to 1. Deny traffic from router 2's loopback 0 to router 1's loopback 0 because I applied the filtering inbound in here on router 3 in the direction of the traffic. Let's make sure that router 2 can ping the loopback of router 1 to begin with. Should be 10.1.1.1, probably 10.1.1.1. Here we go. Sure, run interface loopback 0. So let's go on router 3. Say IP access list extended test VACL and say deny IP host. I'm going to use an extended ACL IP host 10.2.2.2 to host 10.1.1.1 and permit IP any. So make sure you put this in there because otherwise the implicit statement is going to be deny IP any. So if we just configure the first statement and apply the ACL, all traffic will be dropped. So let's confirm that on router 2 I can ping between the loopbacks because I forgot to put a source. There we go. Let's go on router 3, apply the ACL inbound as we're speaking about interface FA0023 IP access group test VACL N. So do show IP access list test VACL. I have no matches. I'm gonna go on router 2 and ping, let's say with repeat 3. All of them should fail as expected because now router 3 filters the packets. I should see on router 3 now 3 matches on the first line. There you see 3 matches. But of course, other traffic should work. Like if I ping the loopback of router 1, but with my physical IP address source, it is going to work. There we go. And I should see on this, because I match on the second statement with this ping, I no longer match between the loopbacks. I should see a list 5 more matches. It's actually more than that. Let's go ahead and remove the ACL. No interface, interface FA0023. The way you verify the ACL of being applied, we say do show IP interface before I remove it. And you look for bound. And it says that inbound ACL is test VACL. So this is how you verify the ACL being applied. Not on the show run. That's not a valid command to be used for verification. That's only a valid command to be used in rare cases where you don't have a proper show command to verify your configuration. Let's go ahead and put also a DACL, a PACL, a port ACL on layer 2, not a DACL. So I'm going to go in here on port of switch 1 on port 105 where my PC is connected. Configure a layer 3 ACL and apply it inbound. And I'm going to deny traffic from test PCA to the loopback 0 of router 2 or of router 3, let's say, to the loopback 0 of router 3, and allow all other traffic. Let's say make sure that test PCA can ping both destinations initially. Hopefully. Authentication failure. Okay, let's connect again in here. So before I put the packet, let's make sure that test PCA can ping both the loopback curve router 3 and other loopbacks. Let's go into test PCA. Okay, let me go in the backend and fix this up. I gotta go on the VM and see what happens. It'll just take a couple of seconds. Probably got a NICAR which was connected to the internet side. It stopped working for whatever reason. Okay, actually to move on, I'm gonna fix this in the first break. We're gonna do the following. Let's go on router 2. So router 2, let's look about on VLAN 23. Router 2 is gig 00 and router 3 is FA00. Should be both of them connected to switch 1. Router 2 should be connected to port 102. So I'm going to put an inbound ACL on port 102. This is connected to switch 1. So both of them are layer 2 ports. I'm going to go inbound on this port of 102 and deny traffic from the loopback 0 of router 2 again to the loopback 0 of router 1. This will be denied and everything else is going to be allowed. So let's make sure that initially router 2 can ping again with a source and also without a source. And then let's go on switch 1. Let's say show CDP neighbors. Let's confirm that router 2 is gig 00. Probably CDP is disabled. Show run interface FA102. Probably on router 2 CDP is disabled. Show run interface gigabit 00. There we go. Let's re-enable CDP. So let's go on switch 1 and make sure that router 2 gig 00 is connected to switch 1 port 102. We gotta wait up to 60 seconds, no more. So router 2 is connected to port 102. So let's go in here and say configure terminal, IP access extended, test packet, deny IP host the loopback of router 2 to host the loopback of router 1, and likewise permit IP and any because otherwise all traffic will be dropped. And I'm going to enable this, I'm going to apply this filter at a layer 2 port level, IP access group, test packet inbound. Do show IP interface FA102. It shows me which ACL is being applied. Do show IP access list interface FA102. Doesn't show me the configuration, but this tells me which ACL is being applied. Do show IP access list. I should see the ACL content. In some codes you also see the content, but not in this code. And there we go. So let's go and ping again between the loopback of router 2 to router 1, and this should be dropped as well. So this, let's say repeat 3 is going to be good enough, but this time I'm going to see no unreachables being received because the drop at layer 2 is going to be a silent drop, because this makes sense because the switch may be just a layer 2 switch which doesn't have an IP address, so it's not going to send a unreachable or destination unreachable back to the sender. So packet was dropped as expected. I should see 3 matches on the first line. I don't see the matches in there pretty much because this is the switch does this in hardware. It's going to take a while until this is going to get updated if, but I see that it worked, and I should see that if I ping without a source, of course it should work. Let's say repeat 100 without a loopback, of course, just ping, which is going to use the source of the physical interface, which it is allowed in the ACL. There we go. If you go on switch 1, not even those matches were not updated properly. As you can see, I pinged 100 packets, but I see only a couple of them. This is expected on the switches, which they actually enforce the ACL in TCAM and hardware, and they don't update the counters exactly for each packet. In some cases, in some switches, they don't even update the counters at all. This confirms that the packet works. Let's remove it. And the rest is going to be a VACL. So that was VACL. Let's speak about VACL. So the VACL, you just configure the access list, but this time you're gonna reference the access list in a VLAN access map. And in the VLAN access map, you're gonna define the action, so what to do with the packets, and then you apply the VLAN access map at the VLAN level to enforce policy. So what I'm gonna do now is looking in VLAN 23. Likewise, because both router 2 is physically connected to router 3. If you look here at the diagram, so router 2 gig 00 and router 3 gig 00 or FA00 are both connected to switch 1 on ports 102 and 103, and both of them have VLAN 23. Both of them have VLAN 23 allowed. One is a trunk, one is a access port, but doesn't matter. So for router 2 and router 3 to speak with each other, they're going to pass through the switch traffic through VLAN 23. So for router 2 and router 3 to speak with each other on the connected subnet, they're going to pass traffic back and forth through switch 1 through VLAN 23. So I'm going to do the same configuration, but this time at the VLAN level, which means, looking back at the diagram, I'm going to deny traffic from the loopback 0 router 2 to the loopback 0 router 1. Deny. But this is going to be filtering is going to be done at the switch level, switch 1, at the VLAN level of VLAN 23. Now, if the PACL and the VACL have direction in or out, the VACL has no direction. It applies at the VLAN level. It affects all traffic back and forth in the VLAN because there's no direction in the VLAN. Traffic just flows through the VLAN and is going to be allowed or dropped. So let's confirm before we do the configuration that again router 2 can ping the loopback of router 1 with its loopback. Let's make sure that on switch 1 I have removed the PACL. Not on 20, on 2, right? There we go. Let's remove it. Let's confirm that I can now ping between the loopbacks again. There we go. And also with the source of the physical interface. And there we go. So now let's go on switch 1, configure the accesses. I'm gonna say I'm gonna make use now IP access list extended. It's gonna be VACL test VACL. And I'm going to say permit IP host 10.2.2 to host 10.1.1. So define what you need to, the traffic you need to match on with a permit statement. And then you say VLAN access map give it a name, VLAN 23 filter, let's say, and then you say match IP address and the name of the ACL. In some cases, there are known issues with named ACLs. If it's not going to work, I'm going to use a numbered ACL. And then you say action drop. And then you put one more entry in the VLAN access map. This is like a route map. And then you say action forward. So do show run section VLAN access map. So my configuration doesn't support section begin, let's say in this case. This code doesn't support the section option. So I'm saying in here, I'm creating a VLAN access map with a first sequence number of 10. And I'm saying if traffic is going to match on that ACL, which means between the loopbacks of 2 and 1, then drop the traffic. And then for all other traffic, because I have no other conditions in the sequence number of 20, I have no conditions, action forward. Now this ACL, as it is configured, is going to drop traffic only sourced from this one. It's going to drop traffic only sourced from router 2 loopback, that's it, to router 1 loopback, but not the other way around. So if you want traffic to be blocked both ways, both from router 2's loopback to 1's loopback, and also the other way around, you would have to build in the ACL another statement which would state also permit IP host 10.1.1.1 as the source. So this would be the source host 10.1.1.1, and this one's going to be the destination. Either way, I just want to test this to see that it works. So I have defined my condition. I want to match on this traffic from 2 to 1, between the loopback of router 2 to the loopback of router 1. Then I'm going to say I'm going to drop that traffic, and everything else, because I don't have another match condition in this VLAN sequence number, there's no match condition. I'm going to say forward. Exit, and then VLAN filter and the name of the access map on VLAN 23. Now, VLAN 23. If you define in your VLAN, in your VACL, if you don't define any non-IP filterings, then non-IP traffic is not affected. So with the VLAN access map is gonna by default doesn't control any IP, doesn't control IP traffic or non-IP traffic. As soon as you go in the VLAN access map and you configure an IP filtering, then all IP traffic in that VLAN is going to be allowed per the VLAN access map configuration. Likewise, as soon as you go in the VLAN access map and you define a firewall policy for non-IP traffic, then at that point, all non-IP traffic will be governed and controlled as in your VLAN firewall policy. But in my case, because I have not defined any kind of non-IP traffic filterings, the non-IP traffic is not affected at all. So if you say show VLAN access map, show VLAN access map, that's your configuration. First sequence number of 10, match on that IP access list, drop the traffic. Second sequence number 20, match nothing, which means match all traffic for the traffic. Show VLAN filter to show you which VLAN access map is applied on which VLAN. Pretty much that's it. And now let's try and ping again. So this time between the loopbacks, it says that neighbor, it is down. Let's see why. Show IP access list. Show IP edge IP neighbors. I should be able to ping between router 2 and router 3 in the connected subnet 136.1.23.3. Okay, let's go back on switch 1. So it looks like this traffic is being dropped between 2 and 3, and it shouldn't. VLAN 23. I'm matching on that and dropping, and everything else is going to be a forward. Let's make sure that I'm matching on the proper. Oh, there we go. So the problem here is the following. I am matching on an ACL which doesn't exist, which means the condition is being ignored. This is an interesting troubleshooting use case. So what I did in my policy, I stated just to drop the traffic. If you look back at the diagram in here, just to drop the traffic between loopback 0 router 2 to loopback 0 router 1. That was my intention. But then what I saw is that 2 and 3 cannot even ping themselves in the same subnet, which that should be allowed based on my configuration. But the problem is that at the VLAN level, in here, I have applied a drop action by matching on an access which doesn't exist. So if you put a condition that doesn't exist, then it's going to behave like condition is not there, which means if no match conditions, it's going to be a match all. So currently, all of my traffic is being dropped. There we go. So actually, I should have put it in my condition to show IP access list. I should have matched on test vehicle ACL, not on this name. Let's put this back. And I'm going to say no match this IP address. And I'm going to match on the proper one. Test vehicle. In general, it's recommended to remove and reapply the filter. Include filter because this is the switch does this in hardware, and removing and reapplying the vehicle being applied is going to make the switch to download the new rules in hardware. So now I should be able to, there we go, I should not be able to ping between the loopbacks of 2 and 1. This should not work, and there we go, it doesn't. But I should be able to ping to the loopback of router 1 with the physical IP address as the source. And there we go. And if you look on switch 1 and the counters, likewise, you may or may not see the counters increasing in the packet access list in the vehicle ACL. There we go, you don't see the counters increasing. That's expected with the switches, as I was saying. But at least we see that it works. Let's remove the filtering. Include filter. And now this. Okay.